Let's go to our panel now. We've got Fiona Scott, former Liberal MP and Premier State Consultant, and Ben Oquist, Executive Director at the Australia Institute. Great to see you both. Fiona, this afternoon we're seeing a number of Liberal women, including Susan Lee, but others as well, who are coming out. I think your successor there in the seat of Lindsay as well, defending the Prime Minister and his character. It really shouldn't have to come to this, though, should it, this late in the electoral cycle? And he's copping flack internally, and now we're starting to see others say, look, we've got to defend his honour.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, Kieran, from a very wet Sydney afternoon. But, yeah, look, I can appreciate what these women are saying, but this is what happens when the election is called, that everybody's moral fibre is pulled into account and everybody has to come to question for everything. I mean, personally, I have to say I found Scott Morrison to have been very helpful when I was a parliamentarian. He launched my 2010 campaign. He launched my 2016 campaign. In fact, he even wrote me references for my pre-selection for 2013 and 2016. So, I mean, I found Scott Morrison right through my political career to be incredibly helpful. I completely dismiss and discount anyone saying that it is otherwise. And each of these women coming forward...
So where's it coming from?
I think it's an attack from the Labor Party. I think we've also seen the comments made from Concetta Fierravanti-Wells on Tuesday last week, which, were unhelpful. And, I mean, I like Connie. She's a lovely lady, but
you said
seriously.
From Labor, but, it's actually, you've had Catherine Cusack, you've had Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, you've had others involved in the Cook pre-selection. I'm not discounting what you're saying. I totally take it because you're always honest with me, Fiona. I've got no reason to disbelieve it. In fact, I've seen the Prime Minister warmly welcomed by members of the Lebanese community in Sydney, for example. I've emceed many events with that community, given my own personal heritage. And so I'm not discounting what you're saying, but what I would say is that there is a lot of rubbish being thrown at him right now, including from Liberals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this is probably a very off-the-cuff comment, Kieran, but I think in politics, you break eggs, you upset people when you don't make decisions that go their way. I mean, Scott Morrison is the Prime Minister of the country. He's had to make decisions that didn't please everybody. And so what do? Well, the election's been called, so let's throw as much garbage at him as possible because he didn't do something I wanted him to do at some point in time. And that's what we see. And we'll see the same sort of thing being thrown at Anthony Albanese. And in fact, even when you become a new candidate, it's one of the first things that happens to you. People just chuck mud at you. And, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, I mean, we could sit there and go through blow by blow with different people why they've said what they said. Concetta Fierravanti-Wells losing her pre-selection. Does she think she deserved that spot over Marise Payne, the current Foreign Affairs Minister? Does she think that her spot is more valued than Jim Molan? Because they are the two Liberals that beat her. Now, that was a fair pre-selection to then carry on like this. I like Connie, I like her a lot. But to chuck the toys out of the cot because you didn't beat against two very good senators in Jim Molan and Marise Payne is beyond the pale.
Ben Oquist, what's your read on it? Because we've seen almost a neutralising of these character issues in a way, because Labor was copping some flack and then this is distracted completely from that.
Well, I think, in a way, the fact that we're talking about it tells the story. The fact that there is these character assessments and attacks from his own side and the division. The fact that, those are the first questions asked of Anthony Albanese today were about division on the Liberal side tells you where the debate is at. Fiona's right, of course. Morrison is in a very different position this time to the last election. He was a newbie at the last election, but he's built up the barnacles and difficulties of office over this time. And so that's part of the reason why it's coming up. But there are a lot of attacks from his own side. And in politics, that's very difficult to deal with. A division is death in politics, and that old adage about if you can't govern yourself, you can't govern the country. They've got legal fights, they've got Cusack, they've got Connie, they've got texts of former premiers, they've got texts of current deputy prime ministers. So there's a lot of ammunition there, and of course, Fiona's right, the Labor Party is prosecuting it for all it's worth. But the Prime Minister is clearly on the back foot at the moment, and that's why the election, I think, is not going to be called until Sunday, and why the election is not going to be called for May 14, but for May 21. And I heard the Prime Minister rule out calling it.
Is that because you think he needs more time to haul in, or he believes that he needs all the time he can get to haul in Albanese's lead.
Yeah, he needs all the time he can get. The polls are at 55-45. The Australia Institute had a poll out today in Mayo and Sturt showing that Labor was ahead 57-43 in, not in Mayo, in Boothby and Sturt, and Labor was ahead 57-43 in Boothby. Now that's a ferocious lead. Now, even if that poll's a little bit out, that's a big win for Labor coming in Boothby. A long way to go till polling day, and the Prime Minister needs all that time to get there. But it even had Labor ahead in Sturt. So I think the best kind of attack lines that Labor has got is the government has run out of puff and is tired, and then you add in the division, and that's good. Having said that, the election's a long way to go, and there's a difficult seat count for Labor to get enough seats to form a majority government.
There is a long way to go, and incidentally, on those South Australian seats, Peter Malinauskas, the new Premier, is my guest in about 10-15 minutes from now. I just want to play you both this exchange. It was the opposition leader in Perth today, and a member of the public interrupted the news conference. This is how it all unfolded.
I'm not a media person. I'm just a local resident. Thank you for coming to my neck of the woods. I've got a tough question.
Hang on.
Are you up for it? I've got a tough question. Are you up for it?
I'm absolutely up for it.
Okay, good.
And sorry, we can't really do that. The protocol, the Media Alliance will be a bit upset if we...
I don't think the media will mind at all. I've said, are you up for it? Are you up for it?
I'm absolutely up for it.
Okay, so my question is,
we're just taking questions from journalists because that's what you do at a press conference.
There you go. So, Fiona, a bit of a reminder, I think, to the Labor leader and to those running the campaign, be ready for anything, but also make sure you retain your patience. Don't blow up. You know, no, I'm not saying he did there, but I'm just saying it's a reminder to just make sure you're calm and welcoming and patient with even members of the public who interrupt news conferences. I probably would have taken the question. If I was advising him, I'd tell him to take the question, take as many as he wants.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Kieran. I mean, it doesn't look great when, you know, a general punter walks up who's being really polite and said, you know, I'm sure they won't mind. He wasn't rude or aggressive and gets dismissed. But, I mean, I'm going to throw the question a bit weird here, Kieran, back to you. But, I mean, as a member of the press gallery, I mean, would the Media Alliance really get upset about that? I can appreciate why the media needs it. I can understand why Anthony Albanese behaved that way. But at this stage of the campaign, is that something that then gets out of control, that punters do interject media campaigns and the media doesn't get that chance? So, I don't know, I'm interested also from the media perspective as to, you know, how does that get managed?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. And this is the thing with these street walks and so on. Ben, you've seen them over a long time. News conferences, street walks and whatever, they have an inherent risk with them. But leaders need to make sure, and I get Fiona's point. I'm sure if I was a journalist on the ground, I'd be peeved if I missed out on a question. But if you're saying to a leader, this is your strategy, the key is over 5-6 weeks, if you want to win, don't stuff up, don't lose your temper, I'm not saying he did that in this occasion. I'm just saying it's a reminder to be on your toes, Ben.
Yeah, election campaigns are long and leaders and opposition leaders get found out. And that's something that Morrison is attempting to rely upon. He knows he can handle an election campaign. He's done one. As Prime Minister, it's probably a bit easier than not that Albo doesn't have a lot of experience, but he hasn't gone to an election as an opposition leader, and it's different. We're going to find out whether all his experience has led him to the ability to deal with an election campaign.
If you're advising him, if those people in his office, what are they saying to him, Ben, about that sort of stuff?
I think they're saying maybe you nipped them in the bud here today. If we'd allowed this one, it might be a free-for-all for the rest of the election campaign. Maybe you looked firm and you've helped prevent it taking over election campaigns. I mean, I'm all for a free-ranging debates, but if we let in members to the public to every press conference, it's all going to get a bit sterile, probably.
Can I just say something else to what you're saying there, Ben? I think the big issue here, if I was the media advisor advising Albo in that situation, he had this great op there with Mark McGowan, great following in Western Australia. I mean, that was a huge opportunity to really own the message. Instead, the message is now being owned by him not answering a question to a punter, which means he failed that news conference, he's lost the day. And I think that's, if you're going to be really hard and dry, then that's it. And the ability for the coalition to now frame him as not talking to the average punter, I think, is really bad. So, I mean, how he manages it between, you know, the order and control and the free access that Australian media deserve and preserving the right of the press against, you know, access and all the rest of it. I think Anthony Albanese was polite in that circumstance, but I'm not sure he got it right. And I think he's now missed the opportunity because he's now lost the media cycle from that appearance with Mark McGowan.
Yeah, you need the patience of Job, as they say, I think, to be a leader in any context. Don't envy them, but just when there's cameras there and microphones, probably do it all the time. It's the good message, but just be patient, I think, for all leaders concerned. Scott Morrison, as you said, Fiona, does it very well. He's a very good campaigner. But we're out of time. Fiona, Scott, Ben Oquist, thanks.
Thanks, Kieran.
Thank you.